Look at this beautiful otter trail right here. Using a lope as its gait. Look at those fantastic otter tracks. They're beautiful. I'm glad he went through the mud so I could see these beauties. There's a Canada goose going over here, and then the otter went back into the water. There was a little merganser duck sitting over here when I get down here, so I'll have to show you what her tracks look like. Hey trackers, let's talk about otter tracks for a moment. I got these beautiful otter tracks right here. These are river otter, and they've come across the river bar here, and it's using its loping gait, which is a very common gait that otters use. And you'll see in this gait that there is a group of 4 tracks, and then there's a little space between them, and then another group, and then a space between them, and so on, all the way back here. So this is a river otter, not a sea otter. Sea otters have much different feet and won't be found inland on rivers like this one. So I'm going to find some nice tracks and show you these up close because they're really pretty beautiful tracks. I'm going to start with this one because this is a beautiful example of a left front track of a river otter. You have toe 1 here, which is the inner toe, your thumb, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you have this pad here, and the pad is broken up into lobes. So there's a lobe here, and this lobe here, the large one, is shared by toes 3 and 4. There's a lobe here that goes to toe 2, and this little lobe goes to toe 1. There's a carpal pad down here. This is called the metacarpal pad because it's on the front foot. So the outer edge of this lobe is wider and bigger and beefier than the inner edge. So this is your left front foot of a river otter. Now here is the right hind track of a river otter, and notice toe 1, which is the inner or thumb, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They correspond to your fingers. Toe 1 is further backward in the track than it was on this front track. So on the front track, notice how those are almost even there. But on this one, it's way further back. So on the front, it was up here. On the hind one, it's dropped further back in the foot towards the back of the animal. So there's a longer heel on these that doesn't always show. I'll show you one in a minute. But the inner toe or the thumb being dropped back is a good characteristic to look for on the hind tracks of otters. And also these 2 toes here point mostly forward. They're not really as splayed as sometimes you see on the front tracks. Here's another front track for an example. See how they're more of an arc, they're more of a evenly spread fan shape rather than the 2 in the center being pointing that way and these 2 pointing that way and that one pointing out that way. So look at the pads. You have toe 1 with its pad. Toe 2 has its own pad. 3 and 4 share this heart-shaped pad in the center, and toe 5 has its own pad there. So it's sort of a V shape, it's lobed, and the outer edge is thicker and beefier than the inner edge, the inner pad. So that's the right hind track of a river otter. So this really nice pair of tracks here is the left hind and the right front. So the hind stepped on the front because obviously as the animal is moving forward, the front track's going to hit first usually, and the hind track's going to step on top of it. So you can see by the soil here movement that this is imprinted on top of that one. So toe 1 on that hind front track is right there, barely visible. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And again, that little pad, it shows the carpal pad really well. This is a nice example of a left hind track. So here's your toe 1, which is the thumb. 2, 3, 4, and 5. You have really clear pad structure here. The outer one on toe 5 didn't register very well, but toe 3 and 4 share that heart-shaped one in the center. This one right here belongs to toe number 2, and that belongs to toe number 1. So that's the left hind because the inner toe, the thumb, is dropped way backwards in the track. You draw a line here, and you could even hide that toe. Whereas on the front, well, I can't see the toe there, so it's not a good example. But anyway, that is the left hind track of a river otter. And there's a beautiful right hind right there, too. Here's a right hind track that's showing most of that heel that doesn't usually come down and make an imprint in the soil. Normally, you'll see these pads, but you don't often see this heel right here. So that is a kind of nice looking track, that right hind track, river otter, that showed the heel. Okay, and this pair right here is again a left hind and a right front. In the lope, that's how they land. You'll get your left front, left hind, right front, and right hind in the sequence of the lope. So in the center, you'll have a front and a hind paired next to each other. Now let's look at this front track, because I wanted to show you a right front. And it's not as clear here in these details because this soil is a little more wet. But there's toe number 1, the thumb, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So those are equivalent to your fingers. You got the pad here for toe 1. Pad from toe 2 is not clear. This is not as clear, but there is a large pad there and a large outer pad. So this one on the outside is larger and beefier than the one on the inside. And you have a carpal pad right there. So that is the right front track of a river otter. Okay, so now that we've looked at each foot, which one is this? This is the quiz time. Which foot was this on the river otter's track? Is it left or right? Is it front or hind? Question number 2 on our quiz. Which foot is this? Of the 4 feet of a river otter, which foot is this? Question 3 on the quiz. Here are all 4 feet of the river otter. Which feet are which? What's number 1? What's number 2? Which one is 3? And which one is 4? Which feet are those? Alright, question number 4. What gait was this otter using? How was this otter moving through here? Was it running? Was it walking? What was it doing? Just general. Was it moving fast or was it moving slow?